Um, aside from being a sleep consultant, I'm also a registered nurse. I have been a registered nurse for the last 12 plus years now, which is crazy. Time flies. I work primarily in pediatric acute care, but also pediatrics critical care as well. I have spent lots of time in the neonatal intensive care unit and on the postpartum mom and babe floor as well. And then I've also had lots of experience working with the elderly population at nursing homes. But I've found that what I love the most is working with pediatric patients and their families. And so being a pediatric sleep consultant is super extra amazing as well. So how did I start into this path? Well, basically my youngest, Wesley, was not a great sleeper. And I wasn't used to that. My girls were amazing sleepers from day one. And Wesley literally woke up every few hours overnight when he was a baby. He was reliant on nursing to sleep. And so I barely got any sleep. And I noticed like my mental health was suffering. I was tired all the time. I was grouchy. I really felt like I wasn't being the best mom that I could be. So I went down the rabbit hole of pediatric sleep and I came across a lot of information. I'm not sure if any of you guys have, I'm sure you have if you're all parents here. But Googling how to get your baby to sleep through the night, like that was me at 2 a.m. on like almost every night because that's what else was I gonna do? Um, and so, yeah, so I dove down the rabbit hole. I ended up deciding while off on mat leave that I wanted to get certified in pediatric sleep. And so I did it while off on maternity leave with Wes, and the rest is history, basically. So I took what I learned there and I used it with Wes, and literally 2 nights into sleep coaching, he was sleeping through the night and I like was dumbfounded. I couldn't believe that it worked. And, because I was skeptical, as I'm sure maybe all of you might feel that way too. But it worked. And then throughout the course, we work with volunteer clients and like it worked with them too. So like, oh my God, I have to open my own little company and help other people. And it's so much fun too to watch the transformations in sleep. Yeah, so today I kind of, when thinking about what I was going to put in this presentation, so many things came up, and I thought that I would just go briefly over kind of general pediatric sleep, why it's important, what sleep consultants do, some common myths that are in our industry, and then how to establish some healthy sleep foundations, what a baby sleep cycle looks like, and what sleep coaching methods that I use at Little Knappers. And then I also want to talk about like questions you guys can ask yourself to see if sleep coaching is for you and if it feels right to you. So, and then obviously I want some time for you guys to ask me some questions at the end. Yeah, so and then Kyla, me and you had talked about maybe if we do future webinars, like even if you guys can share with me like topics you want to talk about in the future, like it can be, we can dive into like more specific things, like whether it's napping, newborns, like that kind of stuff. I can really be more thorough, but I feel like today is a good day to generally go over everything. Does that sound good?
Absolutely. We'd love to have you back.
Okay. Yeah. And I'm sorry. I hope it's not too long. I'm going to try to be quick. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is why sleep is important for kids. I think it's pretty obvious, but a lot of people, it's good to reinforce in here. Um, it's essential for their growth and development, especially newborns. I always like to talk about this. So the brain in newborns is the most underdeveloped organ at birth, and that's because they have to fit through the canal, the birth canal. So their brain is undergoing significant growth and development in the first few months of life. And so sleep is critical for that to happen. Like they're literally forming new connections in their brains as they sleep. So it's important for physical growth and development. In other kids, it's important in memory, learning, in their energy levels. I'm sure we can all attest to if our baby is up all night or our toddler and the next day is not so fun. or if they miss nap. Like obviously it does affect their behavior and how they're feeling. It's also been linked to immune function. Poor sleep, you're more prone to illness, colds, that kind of thing. So setting the stage early on can really help promote sleep for your baby and or your toddler, preschooler for years to come. So that's really important. Then I want to talk about why sleep is important for you guys. Obviously, if your child's not sleeping, you're probably not sleeping. So they kind of go hand in hand. I always like to talk about this cool quote that or not quote, but it's like a statistic that I found. And basically when in the spring, when we spring ahead or we lose that hour of sleep, it's been shown that the healthcare system sees a 24% increase in heart attacks. And then in the fall, when we lose that hour of sleep, that rate goes way down, like the heart attack rate. So it's our bodies are really, really fragile, and any change to sleep can really impact our health. It's also, the evidence shows that it's linked to depression, obesity, all of that kind of things. Also marital status, or satisfaction in your marriage, sorry, not status. It's been linked to having a better relationship with your spouse if you're getting better sleep, which makes sense, right? It's also essential for our day-to-day functioning and how we get through the day. I really like now, I feel like sleep was super not talked about like 10 years, 20 years ago. And now the research is really coming out and showing that it's so important for all aspects of our life. So those are just some interesting little stats. They also, one survey that I read, found that 7 out of 10 parents reported losing an average of 3 hours of sleep every night in your baby's first year, which equals about 133 nights worth of sleep that you sacrifice before your baby's first birthday. So it's exhausting being a parent. And it's kind of interesting to actually put that into numbers, like how much sleep we actually lose when our babies are small. So next, I kind of want to talk about the role of a sleep consultant and what we actually do. My father-in-law was like, what the heck is a sleep consultant? Like, he thought it was bogus. Like, he had no idea what it was when I told him what I was doing, and which I thought was kind of funny. But I feel like now that sleep is becoming more recognized as being so important, it's becoming a more popular field, and more well-known. So we help kids and their families aged birth to 7. We don't formally sleep coach until they're about 4 months old. That's if you even need to have sleep coaching. Not all babies need to have sleep coaching. But we do work with like newborns up until 4 months. And that's just basically, we have like a newborn package where we talk about newborn sleep. We educate you as parents and teach you all, like everything newborn sleep, so that you can set your baby up for success in the future. I can talk more about that later if you like. So yeah, essentially a sleep consultant educates you all about sleep. We assess your current situation and what's going on. We look at sleep environments. We assess your feeding, sleep logs. We have, so that we can really get a good picture of what's going on. And then from all that information, we kind of develop a custom sleep plan that is considerate to your child's temperament, their personality, but also your parenting philosophy. No child's the same, no family is the same. So we really dive into what your family looks like in order to create a plan that's going to be successful, because that's the problem with the internet. Like, there's so much information out there that parents get overwhelmed, and they need someone to tell them something that's going to help them with their family, with their baby, that kind of thing. And then the other part that sleep consultants do is they teach you, like, we don't only create the custom sleep plan, but we also teach you how to do it. And we're there kind of being your personal cheerleader along the way as you reach your goals that you have for your child. Okay. So why do people look for a sleep consultant? It's pretty easy, really. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll just go over a few of the reasons, like, or the most common ones that I see as a sleep consultant, or what parents tell me. Essentially, like, you're so exhausted, you're not sleeping. That's the biggest one. Sorry, I just gotta fix this here. Like, the parents, they want to be the best that they can be for their child and get the sleep they all need to thrive. Parents tell me all the time that they're overwhelmed with the mountains of information on the internet and they don't really know where to start. You can't Google how to sleep coach your child. That's the problem that a lot of parents tell me. Like, there's all these methods out there and things you can do, but no one knows your child better than you, and you can't find that on the internet. A lot of parents also need to feel like they have some empowerment, or they need direction. And so they need someone to kind of be there to hold them accountable and to help them find the root cause of the sleep issues so that they can figure out exactly how to fix that step by step. So a lot of the most common reasons parents come to us is to help them navigate sleep regressions, to help figure out how to get their child sleeping in longer stretches and through the night. Navigating big transitions, whether that be the birth of a sibling, moving into their own crib, the dropping naps. There's all kinds of things that we see families for. We really like to help improve and lengthen naps, creating predictable and flexibility in schedules. We're not like about rigid schedules that you can't live day to day. Like life is chaos on the best day. So like learning how to adjust routines and that kind of thing to fit your day and not let it ruin your day if your child, if you have an appointment to go to. So we teach all kinds of things, and it's super, super fun. And it's fun to watch the transition of the parents too, like going into sleep coaching. They don't feel like they know what they're doing, essentially. And then as you give them the information, they're like, I think I need to, we're gonna extend this wake window, or move nap up a little bit, or move bedtime earlier. So it's fun to watch the transition. It's really amazing because your confidence grows as you learn more about sleep. So Mythbusters, this is my favorite one. So the most common question or concern that parents ask me about, and almost every parent asks this, and this is a lot of reason, this is like the primary reason why people are scared of sleep coaching or sleep training. And that is that they feel like it's going to affect negatively the attachment with their child, or that it will damage them for the years to come. So that's false. Clearly, but I'll explain a little bit why. So there's actually no reputable evidence that suggests that this is true. So many researchers actually have highlighted the opposite, and that is that it has really good benefits on your baby and you as a parent. So they have linked sleep coaching to improved mental health, improved growth and development, memory, experiences, skill processing, mood and energy levels for both parents and children. You're gonna hear I'm sure you've already heard, like, a raise of hands. Can we do that on here? Like, how many people have heard this before?
So no one's joining in on the chat to answer for that. But I would say that, like, yes. I've heard it. I know for like even what you've been saying so far, Amanda, like I was the one Googling in the middle of the night how to make my child sleep. And then this was for my toddler. It would have been just under 3 years ago. And when I was asking friends about sleep consultants and sleep coaching, there was so much like, oh, like that's horrible. Like your baby will just sleep. You need to be there with them. And like I felt I wasn't getting any sleep with my son, to the point where like I felt like I was starting to like hallucinate sometimes because I wasn't getting any sleep. So I remember talking to my husband about that, and like talking to friends, and I felt judged for even reaching out to a sleep consultant. So I think it's changed a little bit since then. From like, maybe I'm just more exposed to like the community itself, but I know there was a
Yeah.
lot of stigma that I felt, a lot of judgment that I felt around that.
Yeah, for sure. And that's like, it's sad because I feel like, and I'll get to our next myth buster, but I feel like a lot of parents, that is the problem, right? Like people are just ill-informed, like they don't actually know. Like when they hear sleep coaching, they think, I'm going to say it, the cry it out method.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then they think it's like this big damaging thing. But the truth is, it's actually not proven in the literature to have any ill effect on the child. There's the problem too with research is that it's not all created equal. So you have to really understand a little bit about research, which I'm sure all of you do. But like some research studies are bogus, and then like one person will take that and run with it, and then that will be what you read, and then one negative thing distorts your whole view, right?
And I would say even like as a
So I found
therapist,
a cool.
sorry, I was
Oh,
just gonna
sorry.
say, as a therapist, like learning a lot about attachment and the effects of it, like it's not one single event or one single thing that disrupts our attachment system. Like there's multiple events that
Yeah.
influence it. So from the therapist point of view, like we're not going to mess our children up by doing sleep coaching and
Yeah.
sleep training. Because I know that that's a big fear that I hear clients say in the office. They want to not disrupt that attachment in any way, but it doesn't happen that way. So there's lots of things that.
Yeah. Yes, I read a study actually about that too. And there's like multiple different things that affect that. You would know that more than me, but I read a study which I thought was super interesting about that. Um, yeah, so I hope that clears up a little bit about that. My biggest piece of advice to you, if you're like thinking about sleep coaching and you're worried about this, is to do the research yourself and make sure you're assessing, or if you need help to assess whether or not that article is of high quality or not, reach out to me. Like, I mean, that was part of like in my nursing course, we were taught how to evaluate whether a research article was quality or not. Steph, you're a nurse too, so you would know that. You're a nurse. Are you a nurse practitioner now, Steph? I don't know if she can hear me.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I did my master's of science in nursing, but I'm not an NP. So I just did a master's.
Oh, right. Okay. I couldn't remember what you had done. But yeah, do you have anything to add about like research studies and things like that? Like
There's definitely a
how
lot of
to,
like, tools that you can use to assess the quality of a research study. But yeah, I feel like general nursing school teaches you kind of the gist of how to assess if they're quality or not, if they're from a reputable source. I think with sleeping, from my experience, the best thing to do to assess the quality is who's doing the study. Is it a company that's trying to sell you the sleep methods they're boasting, or is it, scientific people?
yes, exactly. So yeah, there's lots of different ways you can assess that. So, and there's a really relatively few studies that actually examine the long-term effects of sleep training, but the few that have found no relationship on like ill effects on your child or their attachment with you, their development or their mental health. So yeah, and actually like there's way more studies that support and kind of recommend sleep coaching for the positive effects it has. Anyway, moving on, see how we get down rabbit holes. So the second myth buster would be that, like what Kyla was saying, you would never sleep train your baby, because that means you have to let them cry it out. That is a big myth. And it's one of the biggest ones I hear, and it's one of the biggest worries that parents have, is that they think I'm going to tell them that they have to put their baby in their crib and leave until the next day, where they would take them out once they're ready to wake up for the day. And I just want you guys to know, I don't use that method at Little Knappers Sleep Co. It is a method. That's the method that you're probably going to see is like the #1 pop-up if you Googled sleep coaching or sleep training. But I don't use that here. I mean, obviously I'm really open. I don't judge if that's something you've done in the past. It's totally fine. But I just want you to know that there's so many other ways out there to help your child fall asleep that doesn't involve leaving them in a room and letting them cry until they fall asleep. All of our techniques that we use are really, we really encourage parent responsiveness. We want you to show your baby love, support. We want you to respond to your baby's cries. And a lot of our techniques are based upon your family and your parenting philosophy. So we would never want you to do something you're not comfortable with. So that's part of like our assessment and our intake with our families, is we really evaluate like what you're comfy with and what your philosophies are, so that we can develop a plan that you're going to stick with and that will be effective. And also every child's different. So not one sleep coaching method would work for my child that would work for your child, if that makes sense. Okay. So the last one, this is another common one we hear, is that sleep coaching will mean you have to stop feeding your baby overnight. That's also false. So you can keep night feeds if that's part of your goal. We work with tons of parents who feed their babies overnight, but like, that's what I mean. Good sleep to each person means different things. So if breastfeeding or bottle feeding throughout the night is something you want to keep, we can do that. And I'm excited to show you how. Our aim is to basically improve your child's sleep. And we do that by optimizing feeds. So sometimes, especially if your baby is like still like 4 to 8 months old, like that baby may very well still need a nighttime feed. It's pretty common. Also, we like to not work close with your doctor, but we like you guys to be close with your physicians too, to determine whether or not that's safe for your baby. Is your baby on track with their growth and development? Is cutting night feeds gonna be okay? Because a lot of babies wake in the night out of habit as well. So part of the process is really assessing whether or not it's the right course of action. And we use our own assessment, but we also listen to advice of your doctors, and then also what you want as a parent, if that's something you want to look at doing. And then if together we all decide that yes, it is safe to go ahead and start weaning feeds, we do it in a way that's really gradual, in a way that your baby will tolerate the best, and that you guys will be okay with as well. And a lot of times what families find is that when your baby starts to learn to sleep independently, they just naturally lose those nighttime feeds on their own. So a baby who was waking up, like with Wesley, he woke up like literally 8 to 10 times for feeding, but then once we got him sleeping independently, he slept through the night. Like, he didn't need those feeds. It was more just a comfort thing. So that's one of the other points too. Okay, so let's get into talking about how you can establish some healthy sleep foundations for your babe. So nutrition is the number one. Look at that cute little baby. So proper nutrition, obviously we all know this, it's important for your growth and development, but it's actually pretty closely linked with better sleep as well. So understanding your baby's nutritional requirements based on their age is really important. So if you're ever like worried or questioning if your baby is getting enough, like obviously you should be talking with your pediatrician or family doctor. You can reach out to the registered dietitians or lactation consultants. There's so many in our community who are amazing. So if you're struggling or concerned, like reach out. That's what they're there for. As a sleep consultant, we help families tweak feed schedules to optimize their feeds. Like we talked about weaning nighttime feeds as well. So we kind of like look at the big picture and see where we can optimize feeds to help your baby sleep better. Also this isn't on here, but I like to talk about how like high sugar foods before bedtime, obviously like that can impact sleep. And a lot of articles suggest like snacks before bedtime are good, but try to keep it like no more than 2 hours. Like keep it snack 2 hours go by than bedtime. if that makes sense. It just helps promote better sleep. Okay, the next is the sleep environment. So this is a sleep foundation that is often overlooked by a lot of people. Like you don't think about it too much, but a good sleep environment will really make or break sleep for your little one. So white noise is the first one. This, you can get a sound machine, you can use a fan, whatever you want that mimics those kind of womb-like sounds that are comforting to babies will help. I mean, I sleep with a fan. You know, I'm an adult and I sleep better when I have a fan going. So your child will sleep better too. Do you guys sleep with white noise? Anyone? Raise a hand. Is there a hand raising thing on here?
Usually there is, but I don't know if maybe people aren't. Oh, I've seen thumbs up. Yes. Okay. They're showing up. Now I'm seeing.
Oh, there, I see.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
We swear by it. Although
yeah.
I will say, like, I get a little overstimulated sometimes when there's too much going on with a sound
Yeah, I like
noise and then also other things, but
yes, for sure. Sorry, I gotta move this down. Yeah, so just general recommendations for sound machines or whatever you're using for white noise is we like it about 5 to 10 feet away from your baby and about 50 decibels, which is, there's a little app you can get for your phone if you're worried about the sound, but I mean, just trust your judgment. We just don't want it too loud or too quiet, or then it won't have the effect that we're looking for. So why we like white noise?
Comment. I just want to say, no, Stephanie said, I hate the sound or white noise, but my husband and baby have to have
it. Yeah, and everyone's different too, I guess. Babies enjoy it. I believe it's because it mimics the womb, right? Like the swooshing sounds of the womb, and it's comforting to them. And it also, like, it's beneficial because it blocks out those background noises, especially if you have other littles running around. It really helps. A lot of times the young ones are in bed before the older ones, and so it kind of blocks out the background noises that might wake your baby up. Also, a little tip, if you have twins or multiples, you can place the sound machine in the middle of the room. So then if one twin wakes up, they won't wake the other, and you can sneak in and grab the twin before they wake them up. And the other tip that a lot of people, I mean, I used to have there's a lot of timers on sound machines that will shut off after like 45 minutes or so. And so keeping it on during the duration of the sleep episode is really important, because it's shown like if it shuts off, it can actually disrupt the sleep and have them wake up. So just another little tidbit. Oops. So temperature, we like to aim for a cool sleep environment. At night, our bodies naturally tend to cool down. And so having a good temperature can help with your baby's natural sleep instincts. So usually we like it 68 to 72-ish degrees. And then also ensuring adequate ventilation in the room is good. So whether you use a fan can double as a good ventilation, but also white noise. Yeah. Then the next one is a pitch black room. So I like to suggest trying the hand test for parents to see, because a lot of people think, oh yes, my room is really dark, I'm not concerned about the room. And then I have them do this hand test. They're like, oh my God, it wasn't dark enough at all. So what you do is you go, like, once you tuck your babe in for the night or your toddler, shut the light out and then put your hand a few inches from your face. And if you can see your hand pretty clearly, or you can see the outline, it's probably not dark enough. Well, it's not dark enough. We want it darker than that. So we want you to be able to not really see the outline of your hand when you put it in front of your face and the lights are off. So blackout blinds are amazing for that, especially in the summer, because it's really light in the morning when we wake up now, and it's light at like 9 o'clock at night. So blackout blinds in my house are a must, and they really help. It really helps help them fall asleep, but also stay asleep. it also obviously helps with their circadian rhythms, because light is what allows melatonin to be released, and melatonin is our sleep hormone. And so it kind of triggers the wake and sleep cycles. So darkness really does set the tone for sleep. And then I like to talk about night lights as well. We don't recommend a night light necessarily because it can be really distracting. But if you do use one, or if you have to change your baby or feed them in the night, we recommend like a red light or orange colored light. It's shown to be less disruptive to sleep. The other tip I have for you is going into the evening, like closing those blinds in your living room and then turning on like a dim lamp or something can help really set the stage and set the tone for going into the night. It will tell, it's kind of like a cue for your baby that sleep is coming or going to be coming soon. So safe sleep, this is part of a healthy sleep environment. This is a really big one. I talk about this a lot at work with my patients because we have a lot of new moms who go home with their babies. So it's imperative at every age. I'm sure a lot of you guys know a lot about safe sleep already, but if you have questions or you want a quality resource to look at, you can go to the American Academy of Pediatrics website and in their little search engine, search for safe sleep. And they go over a ton of things that you can do to create a safe sleep environment. So I'll just go over a few of like the big ones. And if you have any questions, let me know. So research has shown that your baby is safest on their backs for every nap and every night. They need a firm, flat sleeping surface with nothing in the crib. So no bumper pads, no toys, no blankies, nothing like that. They suggest that you room share, but not bed share for at least the first 6 months. Your baby is safest in their sleep environment by themselves. It's just proven in science to be the safest place for your baby. And the reason why we talk about safe sleep is because we want to avoid sudden infant death. That's like the main reason why the safe sleep is so important and imperative to follow. Yeah, so that's why we like to talk about it. So the other thing is you want to make sure if you're swaddling your baby that you stop once they begin to show signs of rolling. And that's just because they might not be able to get themselves back to where they were. And the blankets can come untangled and then be dangerous. So just recognizing when your baby is approaching like the 3, maybe 4 month mark that you're watching for those signs that you can stop doing that. You can stop swaddling, and then you can transition to like a wearable blanket or a sleep sack once you're feeling that they're not safe to be swaddled anymore. There's still a bunch more little tips for that. Just things to keep in mind as your child grows, like make sure you're lowering your crib mattress as your baby grows so that when they're starting to show signs of pulling themselves up, because then you're at risk of them falling out of the crib and hurting themselves that way. We also want to avoid like sleeping in swings, car seats, obviously, unless you're driving, bouncers, all of those type of things. They really drive home that your baby is safest alone in their sleep space on a flat surface. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about that?
Nothing's coming through the chat right now. Okay.
All right. Yeah, if you guys want the link to that later, I can send it. But just Google the AAP and you'll have access to everything that I just talked about and more detail too. They go into like a lot more detail on the site. So, okay.
I really like that you brought that up though, Amanda, too, because I think like when we're lacking sleep, we tend to try all sorts of things, right? Like the co-sleeping or different swaddles. And and we're doing it out of a desperation of needing sleep. And so
Yes,
it's a
for
really nice
sure.
reminder of like what is supposed to be the safest and how we can like stay within those limits.
Mhm. Yeah, because it really, it's scary actually, like, because you're so true, like it's so true. You're so tired and exhausted that like a lot of parents that I come to say like they co-sleep, but it's because that's the only way their baby will sleep and the only way they're able to get sleep. So I really love helping families to get their babies sleeping independently for that. That's like a huge reason why I like to, because it is really dangerous. Although it works and it's what you resort to because nothing else is working. So I really like to teach how you can get them to sleep on their own. Yeah. So yeah, if you ever have any questions about that, just reach out because I'm really passionate about the safe sleep stuff. Yeah. So the other part of a good environment is limiting distractions. So a room free of distraction sends the message to your baby that it is time for sleep. It's not time to play. Having toys in the crib or toys on the floor, or I know like there's all kinds of like crib mobiles and fun stuff for them, but it can really prevent them from sleeping because they're so full of wonder and curiosity as babies, especially like as you're approaching 5 to 7 months, like they're starting to be way more aware at that age and wanting to engage in like figure out what that is or what that light is across the room. So anything can distract them and keep them awake. So just keeping things as least distractible as possible will help a lot. And I'm not saying like you can't have those things, just like save them for awake time if you can. The other thing, there was something else I wanted to talk about here, night lights. So night lights, I know I said I don't love them. I don't love them for babies, but I love them for toddlers. And that's because toddlers and preschool age kids, they're kind of starting to develop a sense of what reality is. And so the sleep, but also helps them feel safe as well. Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, it cut out for a little bit there. I wasn't sure if it was on our end or your end, but I can see.
Okay, yeah, I just got that as well.
Okay.
Okay.
Everything seems good now.
Okay, I don't know what that was. Okay, so next we're going to talk about establishing routines. So routines are like super duper important. I think you guys probably all have your own little routines and maybe don't even realize it, but they're really great because they help your child know what's coming next, which is hopefully sleep. So setting like certain routines can really help cue your child that it's bedtime or that sleep is coming. And really babies and toddlers, preschoolers alike, they all really thrive off of consistency and having a routine. It really promotes the sense of safety and security. And it just really, really helps. So, what kinds of routines? So, I like a good bedtime routine. It doesn't have to be anything crazy, but generally, we say like if you can start your bedtime routine like 40 to 45 minutes before you want them to go into their crib, that's ideal. So, it kind of lets the process not feel rushed. And you want it to fill it with love, connection, and quiet time. So, like what I do, and you don't have to do this, but I usually do a bath, we cuddle for a bit, and then I read a book, and then I don't use a sleep sack, but if you use a sleep sack, you could put them in their sleep sack. Then I would put them in the crib and say goodnight, turn out the lights, turn on your sound machine, that kind of thing. Those little things really, really help set the stage for bedtime. So yeah, make it simple, keep it consistent, and it should be great. Another underrated thing in relation to routines is the morning routine. So I know you guys, I don't know if you've ever thought about this before or not, but we want your baby to wake up at the same time every day because it really sets the stage for the day. It helps make their circadian rhythms fall into check. It's really good because if you're letting them sleep till like 9 one day, then naps can get off track, that kind of thing, or bedtime can be extended really late. So I like to say wake them up at the same time every day, and then you can begin your day from there. Make it a big deal, like open your curtains, let that sunshine in. We really want to show them that it's time to wake up and it's time to start the day. Yeah. So the other thing is, don't forget that pre-nap routine. A lot of people don't really think about this. I don't know if you have babies that nap still. It looks like some of you have little babies that still would probably nap. A lot of parents, and I used to do this myself, would just be like, okay, it's nap time, and throw them into their crib and close the door, and then wonder why they're upset or crying and not wanting to go to sleep. So it doesn't have to be a super long routine. It can be like 15 minutes, and it's kind of like a mini version of your bedtime routine. You just need to do something that sets the stage and lets them know that, okay, I'm getting ready for bed, you know? So it really helps a lot with getting your baby to nap better and to nap longer, because you're not just throwing them in the crib and saying, okay, it's bedtime.
Amanda, there's a question here from Stephanie. I don't know. I don't think you can see the chat, right?
Oh, there, I see it.
Oh, you can? Okay.
Okay, our biggest issue is she wakes up super early every day, like 4:45 to 5:30. We start bedtime at 6:30. Any tips to lengthen the time she sleeps until? So I would really just suggest checking your environment. Almost always, not always, but most commonly, it's just that your room environment is maybe not fully conducive to sleep. I don't know if this is you, Stephanie, or not, but really, like with the sun coming through the curtains or peeking through, like even that little bit of light can really wake them up in the morning. So just checking your environment, I would say. I need to know more details maybe about the age of your baby and that to really suggest that. And like you would kind of want to look at naps and how much sleep she's getting in the day, to see if that's why she's waking up early. Because yeah, I have a whole post actually on early morning wakes on my Instagram. I actually just finished with a client who had the same issue.
Perfect.
As that.
I'm just wondering when you say establishing routines and like when it is time to wake up in the morning, make it a big deal. Open the curtains, sing the good morning song or whatever. If she's waking up at that time that is undesirable, do you suggest try like not make it a big deal and try and settle her back down until a time that is better?
I would, so generally, like we would consider it like a night wake if it's before 5 a.m. And I know a lot of parents don't love to hear this, but like if your baby is waking like 5:30, 5:45 or after, like that's actually pretty typical, especially because their little circadian rhythms are so developed. How old's your daughter, Stephanie?
9.5 months.
Yeah, so she would have some pretty solid circadian rhythms now. So it's probably like 4:45 I would consider a night wake for sure. Like that's a too early, but anything like that's approaching like 6, 5:30 is still a bit early too. But I would say like 5:45 and on is pretty typical, although it sucks. It is pretty typical and normal for babies to wake at that time.
Thank you.
No worries. But I do, Steph, I do have that post. Do you follow me on Insta or Facebook?
I'm old and don't have Instagram, but my husband does, so I'll get him to follow you.
Okay, yeah, there's a whole post. So there's like a whole list of things that you can kind of look at to see, because yeah, like I definitely think it's doable to get her to sleep at least till 6, but like we were talking about, like you definitely, if you don't want her to be awake at that time, you don't want to open the curtains and start your day. I would even just keep her in her crib with either your hand on her back and just kind of let her know that it's still sleep time, and keep your voice quiet, keep everything dark, that kind of thing, to show her that it's not time to get up for the day. And then when it is time, like make a big deal about it, so then she can decipher that and understand that it's time to get up.
Amanda, I'm not sure if this is a time to ask you this or not, but I'd love to know if you have any resources on when you transition to a big bed or out of crib into toddler bed
Yeah.
or whatever stage, if it's common for naps to drop at that time.
It could be. I think not necessarily. It could be, but not necessarily. I feel like it could be just like a time of transition for them. So their way of like coping with that change could be to not want a nap or refuse naps. Or if I don't know if is this with your little one, Kyla?
Yeah. Still
Yeah.
at daycare, he still naps like without issue, but the routine there has not changed. But yet, at home, being in a different room and a different bed, it was like we would spend a full hour and a half trying to keep him in his bed at nap time. And so then
Yeah.
by then it would just be like messing up our evening because the nap would be like half over at that point. So we kind of, I'm going to be honest, as parents, we just gave up. We're like, oh, well, we'll throw them in the car for a car nap because we need the nap still.
Yeah.
Like he's only 3. But we are definitely
Yeah.
finding that like a daycare days he sleeps and it's fine. But then the big boy bed was kind of the end of naps for us.
Yeah, and that's a lot of parents find that. Yeah, we try to recommend if you can, and I mean, if you didn't, and that's fine, but if you can keep your babe in a crib as long as possible, it's great because it's like a boundary for them, and you won't have that struggle of them like getting up and just not napping, you know?
Yeah.
But really, my suggestion would be, if you want him to still nap, and if he is still falling asleep for you in cars, that shows to me that he still needs that nap, although he may not want to or fight it. What we like to recommend is kind of having quiet hours. So just set the expectation that, this is nap time, or quiet. If you say quiet time, then he won't feel like he has to sleep, but you could set him up with some quiet things to do in his room, with the expectation that he has to stay in his room. And if he sleeps, great. If he doesn't, that's fine, but at least he'll have that quiet hour and you'll have that quiet time to do what you need to do as well.
Fair. Yeah.
Like with toddlers, it's hard because they're boundary pushers, so they really need to have like some firm structure, and you need to really like, what your words are gold essentially. So whatever you say, make sure you follow through, because they're testing you whether you know it or not, and they're seeing what you're going to allow and what you're not going to allow.
Yeah.
So just being firm. So if you say it's quiet hour, you're going to be in your room for this long. You could even like set a timer on your phone and say, when this goes off, you can come out. That works really well.
I feel like I've been able to juggle it with like weekends, because that's usually, I mean, he's at daycare the other days, but next week our daycare is closed. So I'm just like preemptively thinking about how many car drives I'm going to have next week with a newborn and a toddler just to have a nap. So that might be something that I can start to establish next week. Thanks, Amanda.
Yeah. Yeah. Try it out. Let me know how it goes. And you said he does nap at daycare still?
Yeah, like we almost had to like, it was like 3 hours still. And so then he was having a hard time going to sleep at night. And so then we had to like cut it back a little bit. But yeah, he would nap for like 3 hours plus at daycare still if we let him.
Yeah. And that really shows me that he probably really does still need that nap. So yeah, if you can like establish like a new little maybe nap routine that you do with him now that you're off with the babe, you can like, and for the summer.
Yeah.
I think that would help, and just be consistent with it, and that should really help.
The energy. I have to have the energy for that.
I know you're probably tired. You're probably very tired. Okay, sorry guys. I feel we're getting there. Okay, so the baby sleep cycle. I like to talk about this. Here's a nice little picture here. So if you're finding like your babe or your child is waking up at like 40 to 55 minutes, that's when the sleep cycle will end. So at about 0 to 10 minutes, babies are starting to kind of drift off to sleep. It's the part where they are not aware that they're falling asleep, but they're starting to drift off. And then at about 10 to 20 minutes, they're getting into a deeper sleep. And then at 20 to 30 minutes, they're in a deep sleep. And then after that, they're slowly leaving that deep, deep sleep and they're entering a lighter sleep stage. And so this is where it's super easy for your baby to wake up. So the next slide kind of goes over one of 3 things that happen at that point in time at the end of that sleep cycle. So number 1, your baby will either enter easily back into that next sleep cycle and continue on and sleeping, or they might wake up a little bit and realize, okay, nothing's bothering me. I'm safe in my bed or my crib. I don't have a wet diaper. I'm not feeling hungry. And then they kind of settle back to sleep into that new sleep cycle again. Or, and this is where we see a lot of families coming for help, is your baby will wake up and they recognize that, hey, oh my God, I'm hungry, or I need my mom, I need a nurse to sleep, like what I was having happen, or I need my soother, or I need to be rocked back to sleep. It causes them to like fully wake up, fully exit the sleep cycle, and then they need intervention from mom or dad or whoever is taking care of them to get them back to sleep again. So this is the point where parents get super, super drained, because that sleep cycle is happening like hourly, essentially, if you're thinking about it. And that was what was happening with me and my son, is that he would be in light sleep and he would wake up realizing I'm not nursing him and he needed me to nurse him back to sleep. So that's where a lot of parents call, because they get frustrated that they're sleeping like in 1 to 2 hour blocks at a time and then needing them to help them fall back asleep again. So I like to use this analogy, like for babies, it would be equivalent to like you falling nicely asleep in your bed and waking up like on the kitchen floor and being like, what the heck, where am I? Like, it's really disruptive to them, because they need that to get them back to sleep. They need the rocking or nursing, that kind of thing. So this is where we like to start doing some like gentle sleep coaching methods. So we use a variety of methods at Little Knappers, but among them, and the most common ones we like to use, are in the room approaches. So this is where essentially the parent or caregiver is in the room, and over time we increase the distance and the intervention that you give to your child over time. And so this is like a nice gentle way to sleep coach your baby, because it happens over an extended period of time. It's not like you're just putting them in and leaving. You still are there offering lots of love and support and guidance along the way and reassurance for them. You're really able to be really responsive. This method, like, we kind of tweak it to suit the baby and to suit the family and to whatever they're comfortable with. But generally, like, it takes a couple weeks before it's completely done, because you gradually move away as time goes on. Does anyone have any questions about that approach? No? Okay. So the next one is, they're called time checks. So there's like a bunch of different ways you can do this method, but basically the general idea is that you put your babe into their sleep space, and then you'll leave the room, and then you decide, like, you set a certain amount of time on your clock and you go back in to offer your child some love and support and reassurance along the way. Now, this one is like super we change it to suit the family. It's a little bit, it's not as gentle as the in the room approach, but it's certain babies do really well with these methods are the ones that I find work the quickest, and they're super effective. I did this method with my son and it worked amazingly. Of course, he was sleeping within 2 days through the night after 2 nights. Sorry. So basically, yeah, that's time checks. Does anyone have questions about that? I hope it's making sense. Okay. The next one is a pick up, put down method. This method works really well with like newer babies, like younger babies. And essentially it is what it sounds like. You pick your baby up if they start to fuss and you give them some reassurance and then you set them back in their crib and you just repeat that process until they fall asleep. This one can be exhausting for parents. I don't use this one as often, but I do, and it is effective. I do use it on occasion and it is effective. It's just more tiresome for parents because you could be picking up your baby like 100 times a night and putting them back down. So I just like to make sure parents are aware of that before they decide that that's the one for them. Yeah. Oops, sorry. So basically when we work together, like I want you to know that sleep coaching isn't one size fits all. Like, although I just went through the different sleep coaching techniques on the previous slides there, I tweak all of them. Like it may be variations of different ones. It just will totally depend on the intake assessment that I do with you and your family. So it's not one size fits all. Like I don't take one plan and do it for the next family. Like they're always different because every family is different, every child's different, families have different goals, their social context is different, and so we really like to customize our plans to the family and to the child. And so if you're hiring a sleep coach, you should really make sure they're considering all these different factors. And just know too, like I would never recommend a technique that I wouldn't use on my own kids. That was just not ethical in my opinion. And so I would never ask you to do something that I wouldn't feel comfortable doing with my own babies.
Amanda, is it a collaborative like process where if you're trying out the plan and then you're thinking, oh, this doesn't feel right for me, is it possible that you can like come back to you and then reevaluate the plan? Like, is it something that you're constantly like working at, or is it one plan and then you're kind of, that's it?
That's a really good question. So generally, if a parent was not comfortable at any point in time with what we're doing, then we wouldn't do it. Like I wouldn't expect you to do something that you're not comfortable with, number one. But number two, if you're not comfortable with it, you're not going to be consistent in it. And consistency is key for success, for getting your child to sleep better independently. So if you're not consistent, then you're likely not going to be successful. So I want to develop a plan that the parent is 100% comfortable with so that you are successful. But I've never had that happen where a parent isn't comfortable. I haven't come across that yet, knock on wood, but usually I really do like a thorough intake assessment. So we kind of come up together with a plan that you'd be comfortable with before I like write it out. Like I'm very collaborative about asking what they're comfortable with before we start. So maybe that's why.
Yeah, that's helpful because I know like I work with a lot of moms, and I've had a couple moms at least say that they've done sleep coaching in some way and then they started doing it and it didn't feel right for them. And so they just like abandoned it. Like they just were like, I'm not doing this anymore. They didn't contact the sleep consultant again. So I think as a value is making sure that it can be tweaked and making sure that that's well known that you're like working collaboratively with them, because not all sleep consultants do that. So that's good.
Oh yeah, I don't think I could ever do that, but that's just me. But yeah, certainly if you weren't comfortable with it and we had just started, like we would change it, like we would find a different way.
Yeah. there's already enough pressure on moms like that they have to meet all these expectations. So it's just hard to imagine like putting another thing on that they're not feeling like they're good at. And it's like, oh, and even failed sleep training. And it's like, oh, that's not
Yeah,
that your child's unique and needs a different approach than what maybe was given as a plan at first. Yeah, every child being so different.
yeah. And then too, yeah. And I think too, like it's a process, right? So I feel like a lot of the parents, like you get to know your baby too. So throughout the process, because you like parents are like, oh, this cry, I know this cry means they just want me to pick them up, right? Or this cry is like they need to be fed. Like you get to know your baby. Like you're already getting to know them as they grow, but you kind of through this process really get to know what works for them. So we do tweak things along the way so that you'll be successful.
Perfect.
So before I have like a family sign up with me, I like them to answer these questions, or I like to get the gist of, you know, how they're feeling before we start and if they're really ready. Because the biggest thing with sleep coaching is if you're not ready, you're probably not going to be successful. And that's because you're likely not going to be consistent in what you're doing. And like I keep saying, consistency is key. So I always like to ask some of these questions just to be sure. And it's okay if you're not ready. Like when Wes, but initially I think I wanted to sleep coach when he was 6 months and 6 to 7 months. And then I started to try it and I'm like, no, I'm okay with still nursing him to sleep. Like, so I stopped. And then it was like approaching 8 months old. And I was like, oh my God, I'm dying. Like I couldn't do it anymore. And so I ended up being like, okay, I'm doing it. And I was ready. Something clicked. I'm not sure what it was, but I was 100% ready to do it and it worked. And I'm so glad I did. But if I had have tried to push through and do it when he was 6 months old, I would have definitely probably not succeeded. And then I could see myself, like what you were saying, some of the families you work with say, that I could definitely see myself being like, okay, I failed at sleep coaching. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I like parents to look at, is sleep negatively affecting your life? Is there things that you're feeling like lack of sleep is making your life not worse, but your life could be better if you're getting sleep? I know a lot of parents I talk to say they miss time with their partner and they have no time together anymore. And so that's a really big issue that they have. Or the other thing is that a lot of moms tell me, and this is almost not all of them, but a lot of moms tell me that only they can put their baby to bed. And so part of my custom sleep plans is that I want the other parent to be able to put the baby to bed. So if you're feeling like lack of sleep is negatively affecting your life, if you have that knowledge and you're really willing to make a change, you're more likely to be successful, especially if there's an end goal, like you want to improve, right? I also like them to examine, how they feel about their baby crying, because yes, I'm not saying like we don't use the cry it out method, but I'm not going to tell you your baby is not going to cry, because they will. And that's how your baby communicates. So I like to ask how they feel about that and really understand what it is that makes them upset when they hear their baby cry, and then come up with a plan that, letting them know that we're not going to just expect you to sit and let them cry, if that makes sense. So babies do communicate through crying. That's how they tell us what's wrong. And a lot of babies, even not like sleep out of the picture, any response to change or something maybe not routine for them is gonna cause them to have a little bit of distress in the moment, but you're gonna be there to support them through that. So that's the biggest thing I try to drive home with the families, is that you're gonna learn a lot about your baby and what those cries mean. And then you'll know what makes them respond the best way when they're crying, that kind of thing. I like to think about it too. Like I like to tell parents, your baby is crying and in the car seat, like you don't take them out while you're driving. You don't go and take them out because they're crying, because that wouldn't be safe, right? So they cry for different reasons, and you just have to, like, I like parents to examine how they feel about that, so that if that comes up, they're able to recognize and talk about it with me. And then the other piece, I like parents to be able to say, because with any changes in sleep, we want it to be consistent and we want it to be a routine. So we like to ask if you're dedicated for the next 2 weeks to sleep coaching. And that's just because it takes a little bit of time to develop new routines, to develop new patterns that your baby will recognize. So if you know you're going to go to Florida for 2 weeks, it's probably not the best time to do some sleep coaching. We want them to be in the environment that they're going to be in most of the time, if that makes sense. And then we like to make sure that our families have lots of support. So, and that they have, everyone is on board with sleep coaching, because it really does take a village. So anyone who's involved in putting your baby to sleep, we like them to be on board, but also know what you're doing so that they can do the same things. And that will just help your baby recognize that, one, anyone can put them to sleep, and two, that these certain things, this is what is happening before I go to sleep. Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions about that?
There's thumbs up.
No? Okay.
So we're good.
All right. Okay. So things oh, sorry. Trying to exit this. Okay. So hiring a sleep consultant. I really, if you guys are going to hire a sleep consultant, I really like you to ask some questions to your sleep consultant. So number one, like ask if they're certified, like where did they do their training? Because what I learned when I got certified is that there's actually no regulating body for sleep consultants. So that kind of means that there's no standards for the profession, and anyone could be a sleep consultant. Like you don't have to have a certification to be a sleep consultant. So ask where they got their training from. And then ask them what approaches they use to sleep coaching, and does this align with what your parenting philosophy is, and are you okay? Do you guys share similar values and goals? Can they share success stories? Like, who were their previous clients? Do they have reviews, like Google reviews, or can they share that with you? Ask them about what their process is like. You know, is there follow-up support? Will they be texting you along the way? Like, ask them all those things so that before you hire them, you know what kind of support you're going to have throughout the process. And so I wanted to kind of leave you guys with some tips to help improve your baby's sleep today. So we already talked a lot about all of these, but number one, create that perfect sleep environment if you can. Develop those predictable, consistent routines that we talked about. Ensure their nutrition is optimized. Fill up their emotional cup. I think I skipped that one by accident. I'll talk a bit. I'm going to go back and find that. Fill up their emotional cup.
You did touch on it a little bit.
Did we? Okay.
Yeah.
And then follow an age-appropriate schedule for your child. And that is it.
Amazing.
Sorry, that was a bit longer, guys. Thanks for staying with me.
And also,
this is how you can contact me.
The tech stuff at the beginning took up a bit of that time, so don't worry about that. And we did record it, so if anybody does reach out and miss the ending, we did record it, so we can send it over to them as well.
Okay, awesome. That's great.
So I typically go on and thank you, and then also tell a little bit more about like how to stay connected with our team and other upcoming workshops. But I'm just gonna say I have a sleeping baby here right now. So based on us going over, I'm gonna wrap us up and thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll definitely have
no
to
problem.
and get you in the office for some workshops and to do another webinar because there's so many things in here that could be elaborated on more. And it's dear to my heart because of a lot of the mom shame that I experienced from needing the sleep consultant with my son. And then also, like, he's been an amazing sleeper since doing it. And someone had once told me that the biggest gift we can give our kids is to learn how to sleep. And so that was like a really cool way of looking at it. And yeah, it was just really nice to have you. So thank you so much. We'll need to have you back. And then yeah, and Stephanie said she'd attend another, so that's awesome. I say follow us on our social media as well, because that's where we post the upcoming workshops. And next month for July, it's actually more focused on therapists. So it's how to choose the right therapist for you. So things to consider and questions to ask those therapists when you're meeting them if you're looking at starting therapy, but you're not quite sure if it's the right time or who to choose. That's the topic of the next webinar, but tell your friends about these because I'd love to get more people doing presentations and more people attending so that we can get this good information out there. So yeah, thank you all so much. Is there any questions for Amanda or myself just before I end the meeting today? I'll give a few minutes. Nothing? Okay, awesome. All right, if there is anything, feel free to reach out to either of us after too, okay?
Thank you
Yeah,
both.
thanks so much, Kyla and team, for having me.
Yes, of course. Okay, talk soon. Bye.
Okay, bye guys.